Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got one more game of the day, AlbumSheet versus NVMI. I'm Zyori, joined once again by Blaze. Blaze, what's up, man? We've got one more game. How you feeling, buddy?
Feeling pretty good. Obviously, we had some issues earlier today with the previous game with NVMI, but hopefully they didn't take them out of sorts for their matchup here. Another matchup where we have to say that Album Sheet is unfavored, but nevertheless, they put up a pretty awesome fight in the last one. They made some cool plays happen, and maybe that's going to be enough to take on the Mad Genius Godblack. Already in the draft, it's kind of gone down to a little bit of a stagnant meta, flavor of the month, whatever you want to call it, but effective heroes nevertheless. I mean, we get the Chronosphere plus the Exorcism. That's really good for just making sure the team fights are always in your favor and taking towers when you're not fighting. And obviously the Skywrath Brewmaster is going to enable you to really take use of those spirits as you're not as worried about the silence. Obviously DP still has a silence, but it's not as guaranteed as the Skywrath is.
Yeah, that's for sure. Just between the lack of single target and the innate delay of her cast point and all that stuff, definitely a little bit harder to deal with. But we get to see some Faceless Void. That's a small breath of fresh air, I guess. Seems like a weird thing to say, but we actually haven't seen all that much Faceless the past couple of games we've got to cover, as he has been the victim of the bans. So, well, we'll see how AlbumSheet utilize him here.
Yeah, we'll have to see exactly what they have up their sleeve with him. Skywrath is also really good against Faceless with the ability to Ancient Seal, and if he accidentally locks any of his allies in the Chrono, then we could see the Mystic Flare be turned against them pretty quickly. So there's a lot to consider in that regard. I think NVMI would be best suited to just go aggro try against this, because Death Prophet already is a little greedy in the mid lane, that unless you get some really good defensive supports, Faceless Void will be having some struggling on his safe lane position, assuming it is safe lane. Of course, we have seen some off lane voids here and there, but if you can pressure him when he's trying to go for the farm, that's going to be your ideal movement. For now, though, the bans, we see Ancient Apparition taken out to negate the fact that you're going to be under fire with the Chronosphere and Ice Blast. And then, of course, the Chen and Centaur that we saw earlier will be banned out by Album.
Yes, sir. And
10 seconds remaining.
crap! I just did that thing where I had a zinger and I lost it. It went in one ear and fell out the other, and I totally forget what I was going to say, Blaze. That's my bad.
It's cool. It's cool.
Oh, Dire. I Void's on the Dire. That's what I was gonna say. Usually we don't see him in the off lane on the Dire unless it's an aggro try, which is sort of just a rarity around Void in general. So I think it's probably more likely we'll see him in the safe lane, but still a possibility, I suppose.
Yeah, we also have seen safe lane solo Voids more often than anything. So if there is an aggressive tri lane, they might just leave him behind, have him farm up in a 1v1 or at least a safer 1v3 position, and they'll be able to put their pressure down on bottom and take a tower earlier. It really depends on what Album Sheet want to do with this early game. But for now, the only thing taken off the board is the AA. What other bans could they be worried about? Obviously, the Lich is problematic in his own right, but I think they have the tools to deal with him. So Disruptor is a good follow-up.
Oh.
And they're actually going to pick up Wisp immediately. They knew what they wanted.
Yeah.
And the Disruptor would have been problematic with the Glimpse to take that out.
Yeah, undoubtedly one of the best heroes to deal with the Wisp, Mr. Disruptor. And AlbumSheet also need a lot of supports. They have not picked up either of their Position 4 or their Position 5 heroes yet. So smart bans coming out from NVMI. And now AlbumSheet have to think about this. Who else works well against Wisp, aside from Disruptor, Blaze?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of heroes that can do various things. Nature's Prophet can jump to the fight to help people out. Otherwise, you want survivable heroes that maybe get Blink Daggers early, because you see the relocate, you just get out of it, you get away from it.
Right.
Enigma is also a pretty good hero because you can Black Hole right where the relocate's coming forth. It's pretty much heroes that can lay in wait and make the decision whether or not they want to fight the two that arrive or if they want to just escape from it. And Tidehunter gets both. He gets the Blink Dagger, but also if you want to go 2v2 or 3v2, he's there with the Anchor Smash and Ravage available, and you can obviously turn the fight there.
Yep, and also just adds to that huge team fight synergy. I mean, already AlbumSheet have a pretty scary kind of death ball lineup here, and Tide certainly synergizes well with that. And also one of the better offlaners to deal with the Dire offlane, as he can make great use of the Ancient, stack him up, and of course farm him up with the Kraken Shell Anchor Smash, as we've seen oh so many times in the past.
Not as hard hit by the disables like Skywrath Silence either, because Kraken Shell can take that off if they try to focus him down. And as well, his Anchor Smash is physical damage, which is great against the 1 base armor Skywrath and the 0 base armor IO. They're just going to be melting very quickly to hits like that. So, in general, great team fight, great pick, and it's going to be an interesting pick from NVMI to try to put them back on it. I think IO Bristle actually works decently. The massive movement speed of Bristle allows him to chase and actually retreat as well very quickly, so he can kind of choose which fights he wants to take. But the Bristleback passive is entirely negated during the Chronosphere, so you have to watch out for that.
Yeah, and I wonder if it will actually be EO Bristle or if it's just him in the off lane and we'll see the EO pairing come to light, whether it's a Tiny or an Ursa or one of the more classic combos. Could also be just a casual Wisp. I feel like I saw a game where it was sort of a casual Wisp with a Brewmaster, and he ended up being the pairing more often than not. And it was pretty scary just to see him moving around the map and in that mid-game when he already has a lot of momentum, even more so with the Wisp there to tether him up and give him all that bonus movement speed and regeneration.
The biggest early game weaknesses of Brewmaster is mana sustainability and movement speed. Wisp corrects them both if he goes for the bottle early and just sustains the mana pool with overcharge and increases his movement speed with the tether. So there is a very real possibility that they could get that pairing going for various points in time. I don't think they want to do it like 100% of the time, but occasionally that'll be the better person to bring into the fight than anybody else. So I do like that idea, but I'm not sure if that's what Godblack was going for with the onset of this draft and when he picked up the IO. We'll have to see.
Yep, only time will tell. They ban out the Rubik as the second support. We didn't talk about the Witch Doctor, but some pretty obvious synergy there with the Chronosphere and all the other Wombo combo that Album Sheet have amassed here. That Death Ward will be pretty darn potent. Lots of physical damage here, though, between the DP ulti and the Death Ward. It seems like Tidehunter's Ravage is basically all the magic damage they have, aside from Time Lock, of course.
Yeah, that's interesting because there are 2 low armor heroes. I think that's actually probably the better way to go. And like you said, it works perfect with the Void. They can also sustain their push a little bit better with the Voodoo Restoration. And that makes it harder for Bristleback if he's off-laning to kill off the creep wave quickly. Usually just puts a couple coil sprays into him and can hold the tower for a long time. But Witch Doctor, a couple points in heal, that could nullify his impact a little. So I like that pickup. I think it's strong, but it's not that much of a talking point. It'll come into play more how he positions himself and if he's going to be able to get that ulti off without being disabled by Brew or Sky.
Yep, and Warlock, the final ban for Album Sheet. An interesting choice, so I guess they're assuming that he would have been the core, perhaps to put mid, and it would be like a safe lane Brewmaster prioritizing that Blink Dagger and pairing around with the EO, but we'll see. It's an Invoker final pick, so all right, it's either an EO Bristle or an EO Brewmaster, and still sort of hard to say, but an interesting draft. Godblack living up to his reputation as the mastermind, as you put it.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see his drafting come into play here. Album Sheet, they essentially just looked at the last draft and said, hey, let's pan out 4 of those heroes. So they take out the latter 4 as well as Tinker. And now they look at this new one and they're like, okay, well, this is something completely different, and we're just going to have to play our own style, I think is what they're going with. Just a standard 5-man Death Ball lineup with a lot of team fight potential. But you put maybe a Scandal on the Invoker and Illidan on the Brewmaster, and there's still a lot of potential there for some really cool plays from these very skilled individuals. And then, of course, the DK Phobos would be taking an offlane Bristleback there. So it's a hero that can survive well enough until Face of Void hits Chronosphere capacity, and if he does end up stacking the Ancients a little bit, he can obviously rubber band there with Quill Spray. I actually think that, considering the fact that Dire offlane has the Tide stacking their own Ancients, there's possibility for NVMI to even go for a snipe where they steal the enemy's Ancients with the Bristleback. So we'll see if that comes into play at all, but for now, it's just about the lanes and getting on their feet.
Yep, and it will be a Shadow Shaman final pick for Team Album Sheet. Disruptor just would have been so perfect, and of course it was a smart ban from NVMI, but even without the Wisps, he would have been a great hero just to mix into this, have a little bit of magic damage, some great utility, and lock people in place for all that follow-up damage. But Rasta will synergize well with the push, of course works well with the Death Prophet, and an all-around solid hero. Add some more crowd controls to the mix as well. Should be an interesting game, our last of the day, and let's take a look at some of these lane positions. On the Dire side, it looks like it will be pretty predictable. No fear in the off lane on the Tidehunter. Will be Chomi, sponsored by Reebok once more. Solo mid on the Death Prophet. And up top, that will be a safe lane try. Their mysterious stand-in on the Shadow Shaman. to the hero he played in the last game we saw from AlbumSheet. Big Num now on the Witch Doctor, and that does leave us with Inquisitor on that position 1 Faceless Void with some very interesting pauldrons. Yeah, look at those. Haven't really seen that cosmetic all too much, but pretty cool. Pretty fierce-looking Void.
Definitely. Looking over at the side of NVMI, we're actually going to be seeing DK Phobos pick up the Brewmaster. He was our offlane player previously, ran Centaur, I believe, but in this case, he's going to be running the Brewmaster with some Tangos pooled to him, so he can tank up a lot of damage. Meantime, it is going to be Illidan Stormrage playing on the Bristleback, and he is going to be making his way towards, it looks like, the top lane. They could duo mid, I suppose, but that has its own problems as well as benefits. Anyways, it's going to be Lil on the IO with Godblack on the Skywrath Mage, and that leaves the solo safe lane, or solo mid, going to Scandal. So they have actually decided to go for aggro try with this composition. What do you think about that?
I think it's very interesting, and we'll see a little engagement breakout here. Witch Doctor, another hero that goes pretty well with the Wisp because you can get those cast bounces with the Tether, but we'll see an engagement, and Big Num will be the first to go down. First blood's drawn by Illidan Stormrage himself. His Wisp taking a lot of damage from Inquisitor, and they're trying to finish off this Shadow Shaman as well. It's turning into the carry versus support. Long-range Tether across the trees. Nicely played by Lil. That will take him out of harm's way. Inquisitor does hop over the tree line, but will not connect with the Time Walk, and Lil will just go ahead and salve and clarity up. He'll be back up to an acceptable level of HP and mana, and so will Illidan. So yeah, the aggro try, Skywrath, Wisp, and the Bristleback. The only thing that I really worry here is how well will Bristleback scale with all of this farm priority? I mean, they'll have this big window in the mid-game when this Bristleback will be out of control. He'll be so tanky, so big, but how long will that last? They don't have a lot of pushing power to follow it up, and even if they do well in the mid-game, I worry about their ability to really secure objectives.
Well, we'll see if the relocate ganks are on point. That'll really fuel him a little bit more. Obviously, Bristle with like late game heart and AC can do a lot, but he's not going to be the sole core. Of course, Brewmaster is going to be huge if he can get Aghanim's Blink, and Scandal is going to be running this Exhort solo mid Invoker, so you could expect a pretty quick Midas coming out of him, and also some great contributions with Global Range Sunstrikes. So I have seen this composition work a little bit. It wasn't with a Skywrath, but it was aggressive Trilane IO Bristleback. I think it was Zenith that actually played it, and it was a very long time back when Bristleback was really coming into the metagame. So a very active lane, and one that can certainly put pressure on the Faceless Void, but kind of surprising considering all the factors involved.
Yeah, and some of it depends on how much they slow down Inquisitor's farm as well. So far, Bristleback is off to a huge start over Inquisitor, 7-3 compared to the 3-1 Faceless Void, and you see him getting harassed back quite aggressively already. The pole camp has not been blocked, though. I think that will give AlbumSheet a decent opportunity to get some lane momentum back here and force them to dive under the tower if they really want to go for this. But this is not going to be an easy lane to find kills in either. I'm sure we'll see Void put some points in backtrack, even if it's just one value point. He's pretty elusive, and they've got plenty of counter kill potential when Shadow Shaman's in the lane. Of course, he is rotating about right now, Invisibility Rune on, perhaps looking for a courier snipe, but he won't find it unless he is very, very patient. Maybe he'll wait along. I think this invisibility will expire right around the time the courier gets here, so this could prove to be a worthy use of his time, but nope, he will give up just a moment too soon. Oh, so bittersweet for this Shadow Shaman. Even just stopping the boots coming out for Brewmaster would have been huge. Or, pardon me, for the Invoker. Would have been huge for Chomi in this mid lane.
Yep, absolutely. But now we just kind of see that the back and forth commence. Inquisitor is finding nothing for farm. He's actually being pursued pretty hard here, but he'll get the leap over the trees. So.
Yeah, and Bristle, wow. Okay.
Tons of chase potential here. They can just go in hardcore with the tether, with the fact that he has now, I guess, Treads down increase your move speed over boots of speed, but he's still just a quick baseline, and he's going to be able to stay on his target extensively. So the one thing is Ink will survive with the magic stick pretty extensively, but surviving is not where you want to be at when you draft the Void to be active. If he can keep them up top and keep them away from Chomi, that's great, but he himself is still not getting much, and Big Num is pretty much dead. Like, Cask will help, but if they can just keep on top of him with these nukes, the Quill Sprays, he's going down quick.
Yeah, Shackle comes out. Sunstrike will just barely juke it. Nicely done. Go Black may actually be the first to go down. The sustain from the Voodoo Restoration keeping him alive. Go Black, one hit from dead, and it will be a 1-for-1 trade, support for support, but the follow-up is where things get interesting. Illidan, pretty low on mana at this point, but will be able to come back in, and that will be a dead Shadow Shaman. It looks like NVMI will be the ones to come out ahead here. Inquisitor getting very, very low. and he'll be forced back. Wisp balls will do some damage here. They're just enough to finish him off, and there you have it. The aggro tribe proves more than successful. Wisp falls now, but the Witch Doctor will fall. A triple kill for the Bristleback. Almost level 5, 1,000 gold up on him. This is where things get a little more scary for AlbumSheet.
Yeah, the activity of this aggressive trial is incredible. And the game that I was thinking of, I now was able to kind of do a slide Google and notice that it was Zenith versus JoeNet back in June of last year. So well over a year ago, but they went 17-1 in 11 minutes time. And yeah, it just sticks out of my memory because of how active it was and how really new it was with the Bristleback just becoming was completely irrelevant to the scene and then suddenly exploded. So yeah. Maybe God Black's looking at some old files and saying, hey, this worked pretty well. And instead of Keeper Light, they'll have the Skywrath Mage, who adds that extra slow and makes it so that Illidan doesn't even have to go for the Viscous Nasal Goo. He'll finally pick up a point in it, but just to kind of guarantee the tower dive presence, and otherwise he's actually going to be going for the early mech build.
Yep. And it's not all bad for AlbumSheet, though. Tidehunter is the last hit leader in this game with 33 CS under his belt, doing a great job against the Brew. And, of course, he has a pretty big advantage in those melee matchups. We talk about the Anchor Smash quite frequently, and that is what he's leveling primarily here. Brew's still getting a baseline of farm and at least is getting experience, but No Fear should have a pretty well-timed Blink Dagger if they don't pull any rotations down towards him. He's already 6, has Ravage online, and Arcane Boots with 800 gold to spare. So maybe the Tidehunter with some big Ravages can be that tempo controller in the mid-game they need to try and turn things around, but we'll see another dive on Ink Visitor here in the top lane. Goo stacking up. He will be forced to time walk back, but now they'll just go on to Big Numb. Sunstrike flies through. It breaks him up. It's off the mark, but still secures the kill onto the Witch Doctor. And it's a 3v2 now. The Shadow Shaman has left the lane. He's trying to camp out the bottom rune. It'll spawn top, and things are just falling apart for AlbumSheet. Yeah,
Tide had the mana for TP Ravage, but he just doesn't feel confident that it would have changed anything. He finally picks up the TP scroll, but the tower's gone. And with that, they can start harassing mid. They can just cause grief all the way across the map. And even if they don't guarantee kills, they continuously force them back. And they are dominating this early stage so that the Death Ball doesn't come through at nearly the time they want it to. Chomi isn't able to just get some free damage on the tier 1 and mid. And yeah, if they don't get towers with this lineup, like, their draft has essentially failed. So X-System will come out, and the wraparound from the Shadow Shaman will come through.
Yeah, Shadow Shaman's only level 2, though. He needs to be careful here. He bumps into Scandal. I fear for the Shadow Shaman's life more than I fear for Scandal's. Chomi and DK Phobos go in on one another. He still has the Primal Split available, hasn't used it yet, but won't need to. The Shadow Shaman actually TPs to the mid-tier 1 tower to make the escape. And no kills will come out. The Exorcism, I wouldn't say wasted. Does a fair bit of damage to the tower, but Chomi won't be able to finish it off, and now they will commence the wraparound. Phobos gets pinged out. He will move down towards the bottom river, right into the Skywrath, but he moves to the high ground, and Chomi will survive. So still 6-2 looking at the graph. Already a 3,500 gold lead, 2,000 experience lead for Go Black's NVMI team.
So Scandal is going to be picking up that Midas almost guaranteed here. He's been able to save up 1,600 gold, so the experience momentum for him is going to be pretty solid, but I'm still looking for those relocate plays to really shift this game even further inside of AlbumSheet. The fact that they still have their tier 1 standing after Exorcism number 1 is great, but they want to make it so that they don't have to worry in any of their fights. So with the Tide approaching his Blink Dagger pretty quickly, that's not something they can say right now, so getting the relocate, finishing up the mech, that's what they need to do to really cement their advantage.
Yes, sir. Faceless Void just about to hit level 6, so that is a step in the right direction. Going for a time lock primary build, so hoping for some extra RNG there and just some extra damage in general. Probably a necessity, as that is something the Dire team are lacking. Witch Doctor not even close to level 6, just recently hitting level 4, so there won't be any Death Ward soon. And Shadow Shaman, yeah, he's even worse. He's only level 2, and he is the big outlier here. Everyone else is 4 or higher, and he just hasn't found anything this game, and now he's sitting on just brown boots and a couple of tangos, and there's just not much he can do about it.
Okay, we'll go right in Shadow Shaman. He's a very slow hero, so with a little bit of Warpath stack, they should be able to close the distance and get that VNG off. Will the Tide even bother TPing to this? Doesn't seem like it's worth it. He's so low, he's so slow, and he is already dead.
He's low, slow, and he's dead. Yeah, you're right. There was no saving there. Even if he ravaged, I think they still would have been able to grab the kill on the Shadow Shaman, and he wasn't even that bad of a position. It's just an easy kill when you catch him like that. Down bottom, they will find an Exorcism onto this tier 1 tower. There is a Radiant Glyph, and They may try to use it and come into the defense. Nope, they'll just let it fall, and that'll be it.
Did use it. They just didn't use it in time. And
Oh,
really
they did use it. Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right.
Would have just wasted 5 seconds anyways. So I don't think it changes the state of affairs too much. But yeah, in this position, I don't know. It's going to be actually harder to control AlbumSheet. Like, this early game has been amazing for NVMI, but I still feel like they need more. They need some good Sunstrike picks. They need to kill more than just a level 2 Shadow Shaman, because now the mech is coming up for the Tide. He didn't go for the Blink Dagger like I thought he might, and instead allows the Death Prophet to go for Drum. So a lot of effective HP on this Death Prophet. She's been making use of her Exorcism, a little bit of damage in the mid, and obviously taking the bottom. So we'll have to see them trying to strike back here. It looks like it's going to be onto Illidan's Bristle, but that Relocate at least can be used defensively in 6 minutes, or 6 seconds time, which is just about now.
Yeah, and he also has a mechanism picked up. Tide will grab his at a pretty comparable timing. Mech on both sides of the coin, but it just adds so much to the Bristle right now. He's another one of these heroes that's very tanky and lacks in armor early on, and that mech will give him so much effective HP, and it's just rough to think about bringing down Illidan at this stage of the game. He does have 1,700 gold in the bank, and we'll see where he wants to go from here. Vanguard still not totally out of the question. A little bit of a delayed timing, but still would help his survivability quite a bit here. Skywrath will find a counter ward in the Dire jungle, looking at Radiant Vision. They do have a fair bit, and a good bit of vision into the jungle here as well. So one AlbumSheet retreat and try to find some farm. They will be able to capitalize with these relocates. Scandal now with a Pandemitis on that Exort Invoker, letting the farm commence. Go Black almost getting caught out in the jungle, and, well, now definitely getting caught out in the jungle. Inquisitor is there, but does get silenced up. Skywrath falls, but in comes the rest of the team. There's your Chronosphere. Tide's here with a Ravage, and he will get caught by the Chrono, but Exorcism is more than enough. Wisp falls, and it is a 2-for-0 trade. Illidan with the back turned. He's on the run. It's him versus 5, and no team support will be on his way. He may be able to survive this. Pops the mech, and no, there's the slow, and he will go down. Wow. But one more set of Quill Sprays.
9 stacks.
And that, yeah, that would have been...
stacks on Inquisitor.
Woo. That was
still good usage of ultimates from AS there. Getting the Chrono, getting the Death Prophets, Exorcism on those targets while they could. Because if that mechanism came out, they actually would not have been able to kill the Bristleback there. And by then, I mean when he was tethered to the Wisp. A lot of people don't understand how it works, but since it's an AoE heal that affects both targets, if Wisp is hurting, then, oh, nice initiation on to Chomi. They should be able to get him with the split, and even the Relocate committed, just to make sure of it. Pretty much committing as many ultimates as AS used in their Clash in their own jungle. But yeah, the way mechanism works is essentially if Wisp is missing 250 health and he gets hit by the mechanism while tethered to a target, the person that I'm overcomplicating this because he's not the mech carrier. But anyways, whoever is tethered gets 625 HP, which is just absolutely insane with that 1.5x tether heal, as well as the fact that it heals everyone in the first place 250.
Right. Yes. So in the case of Bristle, it's a mega super amazing heal right there. Not the most articulate you've been, Blaze, but the sentiment is the same.
It's weird because he's holding it and the Wisp usually is, and I don't know. Oh well.
Yeah. So anyhow, NVMI will find a little recovery there. They still have a nice 4,000 gold, 3,000 experience lead here. And the Bristle is moving into something with an Ogre Club, probably a Sange-based item, whether it's the Halberd or the SNY. SNY tends to be that go-to item if you can rush it this early on. And they will go down on the Inquisitor here. They start stacking up the goo. No Chronosphere for another few seconds, but they won't persist, or press the issue, rather, and Void survives. No Fear still has a Ravage, and again, he did stop off for a mech, so that will slow down the Blink Dagger timing, but will find the last hit on the tower, and that puts him just 300 gold away from having that long-range initiation. I still think this Tide will be a potential problem for NVMI. If AlbumSheet want to turn this game around, Tide is probably a good way to do it with a couple of good Ravages.
I'm going to go for the Exorcism play into the Roche Pit here. Radiant have to be a little bit aware of this possibility because of their own ward. I guess, yeah, they did see them walk right in, so they are going to go all 5, and it looks like they should be able to contest this, but they don't have the split. That's the important thing. Chronosphere Ravage on the side of AS. They want to stop it, but if the ultis are on point from AS, then it's going to be a difficult one. Nevertheless, this is time wasted on the Exorcism, and it looks like they are just going to fall back in full. So pretty good news for the side of NVMI.
A little ambitious from AlbumSheet there. If they had a medallion, I think that was a little bit more of a safe call, that maybe you could burst down the Roche before NVMI really contest. And with the big ultimates, there's potential there, but they just were a little too wishy-washy about it. Now it's a wasted exorcism, and that gives them more time for the Brew ulti to cool down. And now GoBlack is ready to take a fight here if they can find the right initiation angle. Instead, AlbumSheet will just retreat. They go back to farming around in their lanes. Shadow Shaman halfway through level 5, trying to get to those wards, and even the Witch Doctor here trying to get to that Death Ward, but still a few experience short. So once those two big ultimates come out, perhaps AlbumSheet will be in better fighting form.
So Blink Dagger is an interesting pickup here for the Invoker. Has a point in Wex, so you can start going for kind of Meteor Deafening Blast combos, and the Blink obviously allows him to keep up with the Relocate and Brewmaster movement across the map. So it's a pretty cool pickup there. As well, if you've got a really quick finger on it, you can even dodge out of things like Ravage and Chronosphere if you can see them coming. So all in all, a really powerful pickup, but he has to use it very intelligently. So we'll see a little bit of movement towards the mid lane here, but Faceless Void, he's playing very defensively right now. He only has 44 CS, and the reason is because he just can't get close to the lane with confidence.
Yeah, he's 1-1 in 4, so he has been fairly active, involved in all the kills, but here he'll get caught by the silence. The meatball flies down, even the Mystic Flare used, and Void just gets dropped. Creates a little space to the bottom lane as well as Bristle finishes off that tower. So gold boost all around for NVMI as they gain a little more momentum here and also slow down that position 1. Now they will group up in the mid lane, and they could still be pretty eager to take a fight. Skywrath a little bit low on mana, but Phobos with a Blink, Primal Split at the ready, and he is now level 11, so that slightly longer duration certainly does help out quite a bit. We still have not seen a single Ravage from No Fear. He does have the Blink Dagger now, but AlbumSheet still just haven't really gotten together and used that huge teamfight synergy that they drafted for.
Yeah, I mean, he's still been active with the Mechanism and the Anchor Smashes and such, but yeah, he definitely could be bringing a little bit more to the table. The question is if they're actually going to be able to prevent the Primal Split with Silence and Ravage disables, or if he's just going to be using it on pretty much the heroes other than the Brewmaster himself. Right now, GoBlack is really lacking movement. Lil can kind of maneuver through fights with the tether, but if he's going to Ravage anybody, it's going to be Blink onto GoBlack and just incidentally hitting 2 or 3 in the general vicinity.
Yeah, well, now there's your Ravage. Connects on 2. Follow-up damage is there from both sides. Rest wards come down, but the Primal Split comes out as well. Death Ward interrupted just about right away. GoBlack falls to the Chronosphere, and one of the Pandas will get caught in it as well. Shadow Shaman off to the side, kind of getting soloed by the Brewmaster. Only 1 kill has come out so far. A lot of damage exchanging on both sides, but they just can't commit to the kills. Inkvisitor almost falls, pops his wand, and will be able to time walk back to safety. And after all that, it looks like it will end as just a single support down on the Radiant side.
Yeah, with all those ultis flying about, you really would expect more people to fall, but that Mechanism usage right when the engagement happened was really good from the Bristle, and they positioned themselves appropriately to avoid all that and even clean up all these wards. Like, that's kind of negating the death, and
yeah,
obviously they would have loved to
gold,
take the
so it's
Void,
basically a hero's kill worth of gold, and yeah, that makes it kind of an even exchange, I guess, less the experience that AlbumSheet were able to pick up there.
Yeah, I mean, they would have loved to kill off the Faceless Void and prevent the Skyros death, but with all that committed, I think it actually turned out pretty okay for NVMI. But where do they go from here? They've got Sanji Yasha, they got a lot of movement speed, and they got enough to kill off the Void. Wow,
man. Time walk on cooldown. He did manage to get that Maelstrom recipe before he went down, so mitigated his losses there a little bit, but there you go. That is basically the one for one they were looking for, and they'll be happy to find that. It is an SNY that came out on the Bristleback, and he's also very close to grabbing that second level of Warpath.
Yeah, that's actually really huge for Bristleback. The second level is really good for sacking. Obviously, they changed the scaling a couple of times recently, but in general, you're a hero that doesn't get focused down if he doesn't have Warpath. I really have to just take a step back, reset my brain. The best way to put it is that if you don't have enough levels to get level 2 and level 3 Warpath, then there's not really enough incentive to focus the Bristleback because he just spends out the Quill Sprays. He wants to be the focus fire. He wants to tank up all the damage. So this Warpath actually creates offensive potential, which means AS have to target fire him next time. So Chronosphere will be out on Illidan. You can be assured of that, and this will make it so that he might not be able to get the mechanism off. It's just it's good for Illidan, but it also puts a target on his back.
Yes. Well said, Blaze. Good use of words there. I approve.
I'm trying. After all the pauses and disconnects, I think my brain's a little bit in disarray there. So
once again, Dire move into the Roche Pit. They commit wards and exorcism for this. Out comes the Chrono, but the Primal Split has already flown through. Void gets caught inside the Cyclone. Oh no, there's your Ravage coming out, but the Mech doing a lot of healing here. The Wisp still alive. He will eventually fall. Witch Doctor goes down, but he will buy back to try and get into the fray. Now the Cyclone out onto the Tide will be enough to secure the kill onto the Death Prophet. Now they'll continue to press forward. No fear, as well as Inkvisitor caught by the Thunderclap. Cask will start to fly through, takes no bounces. Sunstrike will be on the money for Inkvisitor. He blows up, and now Illidan going deep will be able to finish off Big Numb, the Warpath at max stacks, and he is hitting hard. Disaster for AlbumSheet. They burn a buyback there. It's a dieback on the Witch Doctor. Roche gets low, but no Cigar. And only a Wisp gets picked off for NVMI. That is a huge swing of momentum, and now things looking very rough for our Dire side as they basically hand over the Aegis on a silver platter.
Yeah, the Exorcism wasn't that effective because of how quickly the Death Prophet got focused down. If you look at her current items, she just doesn't have anything against this Bristle's right-click. So she didn't last long. Along with that, the Mass Serpent wards were completely useless. They sat in the pit the entire fight, and they just didn't contribute anything at all. So they were able to focus down the Wisp, but the mechanism just barely got out in time. And most importantly, the Brewmaster got the Tornado on the Faceless Void right when he chronoed. So he didn't do any damage during that. It split up the fight, slowed everything down, and that gave NVMI the time to focus on who they wanted.
And now Illidan goes into the mid lane here, stacking up some of the sticky goo onto Chomi, but doesn't want to overcommit. And yeah, it's this ward right here as well that gave NVMI all of that valuable intel they needed to take that fight. And I'm just surprised that AlbumSheet have been trying to just YOLO into the Roche Pit without getting some counter wards down and just hoping that NVMI won't contest because they have a lot of teamfight potential. We'll see now Initiation Breakout onto Illidan. He is stuck inside the wards, but he'll be able to take one down, and he's still a damn tanky Bristle. And don't forget, he has the Aegis of the Immortal, so he's just not afraid to be in the front line and take some damage here. He will go right onto Inkvisitor. He'll drop the Chrono, goes onto Lil, and might be able to find the kill onto the EO Mech. Will it get popped? Yes, it will. It's enough to keep the Wisp alive for now. Wow. In comes Phobos. They'll keep the Wisp alive. Oh, my Lanta. Now the Faceless Void falls. The split comes out. He throws a Cask out onto the Centaurs there, and oh, boy. Around the other side of the fight, Cyclone comes out onto the Tide. He will TP, or pardon me, blink back to safety. And that will be the end of the skirmish, but end of the day, it is just a Faceless Void exchange for the Skywrath, and NVMI once again take a successful team fight as Scandal. He's just doing his own thing down here. He's got Alacrity on, he's dropping meatballs, he's going to clear up this creep wave, and he'll find a free tier 2 tower.
Yeah, and they're still forcing the tier 3. While Scandal's not even involved, they're going to go ahead and start wailing on the tier 3. The Ravage and Exorcism are up, the Chrono's not, so Initiation seems a little slower, and Lil has a little bit more room for error as far as his positioning. Still gets hit hard. Illidan without the Mech, he is definitely going down now.
Yep, Mech is down for quite a while. He will hang around, and there's no support coming in for Illidan, but with 2 lives, he'll stack up a lot of the Quills. And will it be enough to find a return kill? Any support coming the way? Looks like Brewmaster is on his way, as is the Skywrath. He pops back up, Quills spamming aplenty, and the Magic Wand here will do some work.
Brew's going to turn this around hard. He's going to clap in when they're all at half HP. This is actually going to be crazy.
Yep, they've got the Yules. Illidan taking a lot of damage here. Shackle's flying through, and Brew says, actually, I changed my mind. Sorry, Illidan. I'm going to let you die. Because down bottom, Scandal, hey, he's still pushing. He's still farming. And he won't get a tier 3 tower here, but this Invoker is just farming up a storm. That Handamitis is more than kicked in. He'll pick up Boots of Travel to go with his Blink Dagger, even an Ag Scepter, so he's a little bit more tanky, and he's just going full mobility here. This is like Rat Dota Invoker.
Yeah. The one weakness of Bristleback's current item progression is he's still banking 4,000, and he's going even with for Basher, which I'm not the most confident in. He's not even up against a BKB, so okay, it seems unnecessary. We're going to see the Chronosphere onto mid, though, and it is going to be Godblock to just get dropped down. One more right-click. What? Oh, he gets the Drunken Haze. What? He can't get the last hit. RNG not on his side. DK Phobos. At least we'll save one of his allies here. Yeah, that is unfortunate. But yeah, the Bristle, he's going for a weird build. He doesn't have a heart right now. That's the thing that stands out to me. Is a 12.8k Bristleback will generally have a Heart of Tarrasque guaranteed, but he's got the potential HP and Mechanism, and some HP in Sanjin, Yasha, and Treads, but not that much.
Yeah, and now even a gem in the inventory of the Brewmaster was picked up by Go Black, and now the big tanky Brew will carry it around. When he goes into Primal Split, do they get True Sight if you have the gem, or does it just get lost in the nether?
And the gem as well. So.
Sorry, say again?
Yeah, all the auras as well as the gem.
Okay.
You can even have Radiance burn on your opponents.
Yeah, I knew about the auras and the Radiance, but the gem is one that usually I just don't see Brew the one carrying the gem, and I figured you'd see more Brews doing it if that was the case. But interesting. Good little mechanics tidbit there, Blaze.
I definitely think that Brew is one of the best gem carriers in the game. Wraith King might be up there as well, obviously, for the reincarnation purposes. But I guess it depends on what stage of the game you're looking at. Right now, we're looking at the lack of a Shadow Shaman, or the crater where he once stood. Still, Exorcism will be popped down on bottom, tier 2 being pressured there. And they're just trying to delay inside the base of AlbumSheet.
Yep. Yes, sir. This is rough for AlbumSheet. I don't know how they turn this one around. They have so many big ultis, but it just seems like they're never in the same place at the same time to get them all off. I haven't seen a big Death Ward from this Witch Doctor yet, and I don't even know that it's really his fault. The few that we've seen, it seems like the Skywrath is right there with a silence, and that is the target that Go Black is ready to focus down, so the Death Ward just can't really do a hell of a lot.
We'll see NVMI kind of just regrouping right now, going for farm and doing what they need to. What do you think about this Cranium Basher on Bristleback and just a general lack of raw HP?
I think in the context of this game, it's okay just because he's so snowballed out of control. He wants to be that right-click carry, and all of his dreams of getting those big bashes and doing all that physical damage might be able to come true. I think in general, if this game was a little bit more close, if AlbumSheet were a little bit more coordinated, maybe if this Void was more farmed, had an early Ag Scepter, it looks like he'll actually go back for it after the Maelstrom, which is a little bit odd. Usually, the rule of thumb is the earlier you get the Ags, the better. And at this point, it'll come out at a time where I don't know that it adds too much value. But yeah, I think in general, seeing the Bristle tank up a little bit more, moving towards a Heart, even an Assault Cuirass, I mean, you just can't deny how good Assault Cuirass is on Bristleback. It buffs up all of his damage so much, and also makes him really tanky. Whereas the Skull Basher, sure, it's cute and it's fun, but I think an AC is just kind of flat out better.
Yeah, we talked about all the physical damage coming out from AS with the Witch Doctor, with the Death Prophet. The AC just seems like the go-to pickup, or the Heart for more Bristleback procs. In this case, I honestly, like, I won't make a judgment like this very frequently because I give them the benefit of the doubt, but I think this is kind of a troll pickup. I don't think that has much validity. Sure, there's overcharge, and when Wex is built up, Invoke can give him Alacrity, but all in all, I think he's kind of taking light of this game and just saying we're in a really good spot right now.
Yep, I would agree with that assessment, my friend. Phobos going up top, relocate onto Ink Visitor. Chronosphere comes out. Big Num gets off his ultimate, but he just dies so fast it doesn't even really matter. In comes Scandal, and there's the big Meteor coming in. It is a decent Ravage coming out, enough to secure the kill onto the EO as well as the Skywrath Mage. Exorcism popped as well, but Illidan in the front lines just doing so much damage, and it seems there's really no hope in sight of bringing him down. They'll bring down some Rost awards. Illidan taking some decent damage as the Yules comes out onto Chomi, and Illidan may actually fall right here. Wow, the Yules just enough. Chomi alive with 20 hit points to spare. AlbumSheet will finally take a successful team fight. Would have been completely different had a little bit more damage just come out onto that DP, but Chomi survives with a few hit points to spare. The Yules Scepter, his saving grace.
So the Bristleback falls, the IO, the main medic, with the regen rune and the Urn of Shadows, just gets focused down. He's not able to really play his part in that. And yeah, in that sense, it was actually a pretty good chrono and a pretty effective fight on the side of AS. They'll take any kills they can get right now, and it will move them experience-wise back a little bit towards 0, trying to stop the bleeding a bit and take a handle back on this game. NVMI, they have a lot of ways to win this one, but at the same time, if you don't have the right mentality going into it, it could be a game of throws. Yeah.
BKB on Scandal coming out. Other item progressions here. It looks like Bristleback may actually just move into that AC. He's now picked up a plate mail. So we'll see. 2,200 gold up on him. And Void's still just hanging on to that point booster. It looks like he doesn't have too much other item progression. What do you think about moving into the Ag Scepter now for Ink Visitor? Is it the right choice here, you think, given that they have so much damage to dump into the Chrono just to lower that cooldown, or is it kind of too little too late at this point?
If he uses his Chronosphere, every single one from this point forward, really, really well, then I think it's fine. But otherwise, I would prefer him to just have something more to bring to the table, like
move into the data list or something, get some damage going.
yeah, even raw durability would be okay. I guess that's kind of what the Ogre Club part of the Aghanim Scepter accomplishes. But if you can get a BKB versus a Skywrath, I think that's preferable. Like, the Brewmaster Skywrath are still major threats, even though a lot of the damage coming out is physical. So I would prefer BKB Maelstrom Void over an Aghanim's one. But again, if the Chronospheres are on point, the Death Prophet's always outside, and the Death Ward's always at the ready, then yeah, by all means.
Yep. So, AlbumSheet hanging on for now. The graphs have kind of plateaued a little bit, about 20,000 gold, 15,000 experience in the favor of NVMI. So still a pretty damn big lead, but they have yet to break the high ground. Next Roche coming up very soon, and perhaps what they're waiting on here, yeah, just about 30 seconds until he respawns. And I believe that is third Roche, correct?
It's
I think so.
Possible. Yeah, they went for the first one pretty early, so I think that is indeed.
Yeah, so that's the cheese Roche, and that could be the fight that ends up kind of sealing the deal. And I hope AlbumSheet go for it, but just in a more tactful way. Their first two Roche attempts were very YOLO-y, for lack of a better word, where they just kind of ran in there, no sentries down, no real vision, and just kind of like, yeah, we don't really see NVMI, let's see if we can burst down Roche. And even without a medallion, I think they have potential to do it in that sort of a nature, but they just have to be more thoughtful about it. Up top, Inquisitor will get caught by the Yules. It's not even a Yules, he just gets caught by the Invoker, and then in comes the Relocate. Pretty easy kill on the Faceless Void, and not a good time to concede your Void because, hey, look at that. Roshan's back up. And no, it's only Roche number 2. Pardon me. I'm having trouble with numbers today.
Yeah, I was trying to think about it too. And we've seen a lot of interesting Roches and a lot of reloads where the Roche is about to respawn. And
we'll blame just everything on that game 1 today. It just threw us for a loop. I haven't gotten my head back on straight. Oh, boy, it's a disaster.
We technically only watched 3 games. That's what breaks my mind. It's like I feel like I've watched 10 by the amount of reloads we went through. But
true enough.
Yeah, we'll
Tide
see.
is close to a refresher. That's something.
Oh, that's huge, actually. Like, I was trying to do the math on the mana, and it's still probably not best for him to go to level 16 Ravage, like, not to get the 3rd point in it, but as it is, it's still very powerful to go for the double Arcane Boot combo, and I think there are no BKBs on the side of the Radiant. There is Invoker. Scandal does have his 10-second BKB, just hasn't used it yet, but we'll see if they even get a chance to get to that refresher stage, because right now it's just pressure coming in from Illidan. We're looking to dive deep. He now has the AC, which works fine enough with the Skull Basher, I guess, and he certainly hits like a truck.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now they'll rotate back. Looks like they want to move into the Roche pit. Dire Vision is on the high ground here, so they are pretty much aware of what's going on. The question is, do they dare contest? With a Bristle and all this minus armor, Roche is just melting right now. And yeah, they start making movements, but they won't even get there close to enough time. And Bristle will get the Aegis now for the 2nd time in this game.
Yep, so pretty effective for him. Hopefully it'll work out better than the last time we saw it, where he essentially just had to be abandoned because the raw HP, the amount of Bristleback stacks didn't come out effectively enough, quickly enough. But it allows them to be aggressive, dive past tier 3s when it seems appropriate, and it allows them to actually fight into what otherwise would be an unassailable position. Trying to go and breach the high ground and take down the tier 3 up against Chrono, single Ravage, everything. But up top, they just relocate right on top of the Death Prophet. 1 bash after her first usage of BKB. She just got it, but already getting bashed through. 1 Ravage coming through, and I'll let you take from here.
Yeah, out comes the Death Ward as well. They bring down the Wisp to start off the fight, but Shadow Shaman goes down shortly after. The Primal split right in the middle of the fray, and Chomi's still surviving. No Fear tries to TP out off to the side. He falls. It's a buyback from the Shadow Shaman, and they will try to make a hold here at the high ground. Glyph is available for the Dire side. The problem is Exorcism about to expire. It will heal up old Chomi here, but a lot of their damage output about to go away, and yeah, NVMI will not push the issue here. Aegis of the Immortal still on Bristleback, and they will take another successful team fight. No objectives claimed, but essentially trading their Wisp for 3 kills, a buyback, and, well, a BKB charge on the DP. That was her 10-second BKB, so yeah, that's something. Starting to whittle it down a little bit.
Yeah, fresh off the courier, she pops it and immediately gets bashed in the face. At least she survived, so that's something. But no matter the case, the fight was very far in favor of NVMI, and a kind of just tale of things to come as we expect this to just get even bloodier. We see the Refresh Orb come out for Brewmaster. He has a pretty cheap ulti, so can just go and jump in and do his thing. In the meantime, Tide is set back away from his recipe even further, and that's pretty hefty sums of gold going away for him.
Yeah, Witch Doctor trying to get his Ag Scepter, another item that could potentially turn the tides, but he's still 1,700 gold away and not really finding farm anywhere around the map. Faceless Void will time walk across. Oh no, and they're hunting him. He will not have an escape mechanism besides Chrono TP. And they burst him down. They've got the Tornado. Okay, they've got the Silence. They've got the Thunderclap. And yeah, that's a dead Ink Visitor. Beautiful setup and just unfortunate for the Void.
Yep, that's where you really just need to have the BKB available, even though it's a pretty big charge to use. If he had it, then he would be able to escape. But as far as current farm goes, I don't think he would have, even if he chose to go for that over the Aghanims. It's a moot point. He just gets picked off going in a position that he had no place in being. And meanwhile, we see presence on mid, but Illidan, he's a lot different than a Void with no actual durability. This guy's got the Wisp behind him, he's got the Mechanism, he's got a lot of HP to work with, and he is just fearless.
He absolutely is. That is the perfect word to describe the state of this Bristleback right now. Phobos has also picked up a Refresher Orb, so that is a double Primal Split that'll be coming out in this next fight. Still 3 minutes left on the Aegis, and he'll be A-okay. Glyph is available for Album Sheet. This tower taking some decent damage and trying to find the right time to burn the Glyph. Now is certainly not it, as Illidan is the only one committing to the high ground, and they'll be happy just to grab the Tier 3 tower and back this train up.
Yep, they still got plenty of time on the Aegis here, so they can get aggressive whenever they want to, and they could maybe pick somebody off, or at the very least have the Skywrath in a position to give the preventative silence. For now, actually pretty good at Dire Observer Ward, just scouting out the Skywrath. They know what to expect from him, but this Bristleback is still the main one that they have to break through. He's their buffer. He's going to be always on the front, always causing them grief, and if you want to go to his teammates, you got to go through him.
Yeah, I mean, they're just watching their barracks fall right now, and this is part of the power of the farmed Bristle is you can isolate a whole team. Like, see how fast the Shadow Shaman dies to get it started, and now down goes the Faceless Void. Looking at buybacks, it's looking very grim for this Dire side. They bring down the Bristle. Chomi pops his BKB and the Exorcism. Racks exposed. They'll start to fall very quickly. Big Num gets isolated by the Pandas and even throws the Tide into a Tornado. It's just Chomi and Tide left, and it looks like it'll be soon just the Tide. That'll be it. GG, well played as NVMI take the win. 36 minutes in, 30-14. Pretty convincing game and well executed. An odd strategy with the aggro try, EO, Bristleback, and Skywrath Mage, but it proved successful, and boy, did they shut that Void down in lane pretty damn hard, Blaze.
Yep, a very unorthodox start up there, but the weakness of the Faceless Void is in his early lane presence. He's always on the defensive, and you can certainly feel it here. Even when he tried to break outside of his base and find farm, he still ends the game with 130 last hits. That shows in the laning phase, he just didn't find anything, and even when he was out across the map, he just kept on getting picked off, trying to even break into that triple digits for last hits here. So 10 deaths, 130 last hits. Unfortunately, that's too consequential for this game here. And VMI starting strong. Great draft, great momentum, and they pull through.
Yep. Absolutely, my friend. Well, that wraps up our coverage today. There is another day of Starladder EU coming up tomorrow, and then after that, Monday and Tuesday are 2 break days for European Starladder coverage. I'm Zayori, joined remotely by Blaze at Zayori TV, at Blaze Casting, and of course at Beyond the Summit on Twitter. If you enjoyed the cast, please give us a follow. It was an absolute pleasure. And again, one last shameless plug before we wrap it up today. We have another t-shirt crowdfunding little thingy going on here. It's teespring.com/inthestudio. Our sponsors were so excited about how well the first BTS shirt sold that they wanted to do one of their own. Cute little In the Studio logo. If you want to check it out, by all means, go for it. Same deal. We've got to hit the threshold for them to ship. So I'll drop a link in chat, and if you're interested, go ahead and pick one up. That's it for us today, though, Blaze. Always a pleasure, my friend, and I guess I'll see you tomorrow, huh?
Definitely. Looking forward to some awesome European Dota there as well, and we'll see what comes of it. Obviously, we had some tech issues, and hopefully we can figure out what about the reschedule and things of that nature.
That's actually worth mentioning. Alliance versus NVMI. A lot of people in chat have been spamming what the deal is with that. We don't have an official ruling. Obviously, we tried to remake like 5 times earlier today. It didn't work. I think the last word I had was they were going to send the match ID to Valve and have it sorted out and see if we could have a reload as to when that match will take place, up in the air. So, of course, we'll be tweeting about it and letting you guys know as soon as we have an official ruling. So there you have it. VODs are already uploading to YouTube, I should say, and rebroadcast coming up next. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.